Thank you for tuning in to the Practical Preservation Podcast. Please take a moment to visit our website, practicalpreservationservices.com, for additional information and tips to help you restore your historical home. If you've not done so, please subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, or SoundCloud, and also like us on Facebook. Welcome to the Practical Preservation Podcast, hosted by Danielle and Jonathan Kepperling. Kepperling Preservation Services is a family-owned business based in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, dedicated to the preservation of our built architectural history for today's use as well as future generations. Our weekly podcast provides you with expert advice specific to the unique needs of renovating a historic home, educating by sharing our From the Trenches preservation knowledge and our guests' expertise, balancing modern needs while maintaining the historical significance, character, and beauty of your period home.
Today on the Practical Preservation Podcast, I have Russ Carnahan. I'm sorry, I forgot to ask you before we started recording. Am I close?
Close, but no cigar.
Okay.
It's Russ Carnahan.
Carnahan. Okay, thank you very much for helping me with that. From Preservation Action. So thank you for joining me.
Great to be with you.
So tell me about your background.
Yeah, I grew up in a small town outside of St. Louis, Rolla, Missouri. And my dad was a small town lawyer there. And my mom involved in a lot of civic activities. So I grew up around that. And my dad also got involved in politics. So I grew up around politics and campaigns. But I wound up going to college at the University of Missouri, getting my undergrad and my law degree. And so I was a lawyer by training and profession. I was a practicing trial attorney early in my career, and also did some government affairs work. I wound up being elected to our state legislature and then to the U.S. Congress in 2004.
Okay, very good. So what brought you into preservation?
Really, I was always interested in history and old buildings and architecture. I think really what got me energized was really one failure of preservation and one success, kind of back to back. In the town where I grew up, there was a historic Frisco Railroad station that had been vacant for a long time. And the city council, in one of these sort of dead of night things, decided to demolish it. And the preservation folks in town were really caught off guard,
right,
and not prepared. So we lost that building. But a few years later, there was a big debate over our Civil War era courthouse, whether to tear it down. They had the voters passed a measure to build a new courthouse. We orchestrated an agreement where the county commission organized a nonprofit entity, and they agreed to donate it and preserve it. And so we were able to succeed in that historic preservation effort. Learned a lot with that. The failure and the success of those efforts locally.
Right.
And then I saw the impact on sort of broader policy when my father was governor and really launched really successful Missouri state historic tax credits. And that's real, and really saw the policy aspect of that to the state legislature. I carried that with me to Congress, where I became chair of the Historic Preservation Caucus in Congress.
Yeah, those state and the federal historic tax credits really do help revitalize buildings. They're really powerful. Pennsylvania we just got a state historic tax credit, and it's not very big. It's $5 million for the entire state. So most of it goes to Philadelphia or Pittsburgh. But Maryland, just across the border, you can get almost 50% of your entire project between the state and the federal. So it varies widely.
It does, but it's just such a great tool.
It is.
For preservation.
It is. So tell me about preservation action.
Well, preservation action, back after the National Historic Preservation Act was passed by Congress, Preservation Action was launched in 1974. We're coming up on our 50th anniversary in just a couple of years. We've already begun to think about that, but it's the only national nonprofit focused on advocacy for historic preservation at the federal level. So we've had some great champions over the years. I've been its president since 2015, and it's just a tremendous organization with people that are professionally involved in historic preservation, personally interested individuals and organizations, companies that are part of this effort, really as citizen advocates for historic preservation on policies that really help at the local level. And there's been just some great successes over the years to stopping bad measures, or attacks on preservation or cuts to budgets, but also with the really pro-preservation message, especially in tough economic times, to really tout not just the historic value for culture and education, but the economic impact of preservation, and also more and more the partnering on sustainability issues and resilience issues around preservation have really been coming to the forefront as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think that there's the green building people and the preservationists need to talk to each other more because they have more in common than they realize.
They very much do.
Yeah. And I think that there's a lot to be done for promoting, reuse of buildings as a green building tool. How does Preservation Action engage with communities to encourage and support preservation?
Well, our target audience are members of Congress and their staff.
Okay.
And so, we want to engage constituents with their elected officials. So their officials really understand that local impact, and they can see it in terms of the community benefit of culture, history, tourism, and the economy. But it's hard to find people that are really staunchly anti-preservation. Most people may not understand the scope and breadth and impact of historic preservation. So telling that positive story and really building relationships with your elected officials and their staffs. Every member's got offices back home in their district. They're always looking for, special events or special projects they can connect with and support. So really building that relationship. And our kind of building block as an organization really we start with the statewide historic preservation organizations, and really organize from there. For that, state and district outreach, we do advocacy, whether it's throughout the year or really around our premier advocacy event, Historic Preservation Advocacy Week, that we do every March in Washington.
Yeah, and you said that that's in March. Historic Preservation Advocacy. Okay. And what are some common misconceptions about lobbying for or legislating preservation policy?
There's a lot. There's misperceptions about Congress. It's some, big unreachable thing. And there's misperceptions about lobbyists that, they're the, backroom cigar smoking, deal making, nefarious people doing things in Washington.
Right.
When, there's people that advocate are really a resource for policymakers, and better advocates are credible resources and then help policymakers make better decisions. When Congress makes oftentimes bad decisions, it's when they're rushed and they haven't consulted with experts enough to really understand the impact of their decisions. When they have great resources and experts engage with them, they make better decisions. And so that's really the job
that makes
preservation
sense.
Advocates.
Yeah. I was just thinking that really makes sense to me, because they don't have the time, and their background, they don't have the knowledge depth. And so having people that have that expertise is really valuable to be able to craft, sound policy. That really makes sense to me.
Yeah, there's a funny story. We had a U.S. senator at a reception a few years ago, and there was a presentation of a major historic preservation project in his home state. He'd been very familiar with the building because it was near their state capital, and he knew it had been an eyesore for years and it was redone. And he'd been kind of hesitant to support some of the historic preservation legislation. And after he'd seen this presentation, he got up to the podium and he said, I get it. And it was just, that having that local connection of a building he knew about, that, and he saw the transformation. And it was great to see that light bulb go off, but it was that local connection that we really saw just over and over again was so important.
Yeah. And I think that's some of what I'm seeing in, like, even the museum storytelling, is that people are starting to tell more of the whole history. And I think that allows everybody to start feeling invested, like their story is being told through the interpretations of the house museums or whatever building it is. So everybody has to feel invested to be able to buy in.
That's right.
So what trends or challenges do you see in preservation from your vantage point?
There's always the building relationships. You don't want to show up in a member of Congress's office that, and say the sky is falling and, we need help now with this crisis.
Right.
And they haven't ever met you before. It's nice to have that continuum, ongoing relationship. But members of Congress change. They retire, they run for other offices, they get different staff. And so having that regular contact with the offices to build those relationships, to stay on top of those changes, that's really an ongoing challenge, but it's why we do these regular advocacy events in March every year, but also throughout the year to keep those relationships fresh so that, there's opportunities to go on offense or defense. You're ready to engage on those things. I think the other areas where we've really seen preservation step up is through the economic difficulties and through COVID.
Oh, yeah.
Where preservationists have really stepped up to make the economic case. Right. That as part of the recovery, we need to continue and even enhance some of the investments, the impact of historic preservation as part of an overall strategy. And I think the other thing, as we talked about earlier, building that there's new opportunities so often to connect with the green building community on sustainability issues and on resilience issues.
Right.
Where those partnerships have been either non-existent or tenuous, we're really seeing a lot of those relationships growing and partnerships growing on some joint advocacy where we have common ground issues. I think finally, I'd say in the area of technology, preservation sometimes gets kind of a bad name that we don't want to change anything. And if we were super strict on that, if you think about it, some of our old buildings, we wouldn't have bathrooms.
Right. Yeah.
Or air conditioning. And of course we do that today.
Yeah.
But there's other opportunities, I think, where, I've used these examples where there's technologies where you can have clear glass in a window that also generate solar power or tiles that look like historic tiles that are solar capable. So there's all kinds of technologies that we can, correctly and I think fairly incorporate into historic buildings, that I think there's growing opportunities as technologies get better.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that there's a tension there with people that don't want to change anything. And then, nobody wants to live in a museum, especially, if it's a house that somebody's living in, it needs to be comfortable.
Yeah.
Those tiles that are solar from the ground, you can't tell the difference. So I think that's a very acceptable, a substitution. And it also then, helps with everything, all the other challenges that we're facing, with the climate change and everything else. And that's, I think that there needs to be some flexibility. I definitely agree. And I've been in some buildings that have never been, there's one in Southern Lancaster County that has never been updated. Nobody lives in it now, but it doesn't even have a kitchen in it. And it's just amazing to me that building has never, nobody's ever invested any money into it. but yeah, I agree. I agree with you. I think that those things are very, very important and need to be at the forefront. Is there anything that you thought of while we were talking before we talk about, that some of the things that you want to promote, that you thought about when we were talking that maybe I didn't ask you about?
Not really. It's just, I think the main point I want to get across is, your viewers and folks that you work with professionally, they care about and they value preservation, and a lot of that is locally driven. We have a national historic preservation program that is a tremendous resource and tool. But it's not there by accident. It's there because preservation leaders and everyday citizens that care about this have engaged with their elected officials. And that's not some distant, unattainable concept. It's something people do every day. Something as simple as calling or sending an email to your elected official, going to a local national meeting, joining as a member of some of the organizations like Preservation Action. Right. They're engaged in this. It's a great, personal and professional outlet where you can make a difference. So I would just encourage people to incorporate that into their preservation activities. It's a really important part of what we do.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. And then, so how can our listeners support your mission?
Well, first of all, easy, shameless pitch here to join Preservation Action. Remember, there's a number of ways to do that. You can go to our website at preservationaction.org. It's $40 to be the lowest level individual member. We also have ally organization members. Many of the statewide historic preservation organizations and local groups join as ally organizations to Preservation Action. And then finally, we have national board members where you can be a part of our national board. We have quarterly meetings to be a part of really the thought leaders. We have active committees that from public policy to development to administration, where you can be involved. And we also have a number of activities. So every March, we have our Historic Preservation Advocacy Week in Washington, although it's been virtual last year, of course. Right. But we expect that to be at least part in person and part virtual next year. And then every fall, we have the Preservation Action Foundation has a special event in conjunction with the National Trust for Historic Preservation Conference. And that's coming up this fall. So those are a number of our key activities each year, but please join us. This is a member-driven organization. with preservation professionals and individuals and organizations from around the country. And that network is really what we can deliver our advocacy with. So join us.
Okay, very good. Thank you. And then was the fall event, is that the auction that is coming up in November?
Yes,
Okay.
That's the Historic Preservation Foundation has their annual auction on November the 2nd. And that will be virtual at 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern time. But you can find details on our website. This is typically an in-person event, but because the Trust Conference is virtual again this year, we're virtual again as well. And so we've figured out how to do this auction and have this party online, but it's still a lot of fun.
Okay.
And would encourage folks to check out the website and join us.
Very good. Thank you. And I'll make sure all of that information is on our website. So if somebody's listening and didn't catch it all, they can go and find it there and get linked directly to your website. And then how can our listeners contact you?
Yeah, the best way is through our website. There's contact information at preservationaction.org, and get to me and get to our staff. And please join us. We're accessible. And like I said, don't think of this as something that other people do. It really depends on just everyday people involved in preservation being part of it. And that's what really makes the difference to grow this national network. We have members in all 2 states now that I know we're trying to fill those in. But that's really what drives this network, impacts our advocacy, and impacts those policies and funding for those programs that really work their way back to the local level projects.
Yeah, those like the statistics and the diagrams that I've seen that show, how much, the tax credits give out and how much they actually put back into the community, much more than the tax credits given. I think it's very impactful. So I think that's, something that that is, important for people to understand and to get that message out. So thank you for the work you do.
No, thank you. It's really a pleasure to do it, and really a pleasure to work with people that care about preservation and preservation leaders and groups around the country to really focus their voice in DC to keep these programs and this funding alive and well.
Thank you very much. Have a good rest of your day.
Great. You too.
Thanks for listening to the Practical Preservation Podcast. The resources discussed during this episode are on our website at practicalpreservationservices.com/podcast. If you received value from this episode and know someone else that will get value from it as well, please share it with them. Join us next week for another episode of the Practical Preservation Podcast. For more information on restoring your historic home, visit practicalpreservationservices.com.